Hi everyone, you know what's more reliable than the weather forecast? Politicians exaggerating. From this policy will solve all your problems to the country has never been in worse shape. Political exaggeration is an art form, and today we are breaking it down. How do politicians use exaggeration? Why do we fall for it? And what can research tell us about this ancient political strategy? I mean, if exaggeration were a currency, politicians would have balanced all the budgets by now. So buckle up. We are diving into the hilarious, shocking, and maybe even a little scary world of political exaggeration. Political exaggeration is when politicians take an issue, a policy, or an event and blow it way out of proportion. It's like calling a firecracker a nuclear bomb. Technically, there is an explosion, but come on. Politicians have been doing this for centuries. Think about it. Caesar exaggerated his victories, Napoleon exaggerated his plans, and well, we know how that went. According to Dr. Jonathan Charteris Black, author of Politicians and Rhetoric, exaggeration is a central tool in political speech because it creates emotional engagement. Politicians need to make their messages stick, so they magnify problems or benefits. A research paper published in Political Communication found that 60% of voters are more likely to remember exaggerated claims than moderate, nuanced ones. So, when a politician says this policy will change everything, it's not just optimism, it's strategic. They know we are more likely to remember bold claims than boring facts. Let's dive into some of the most epic political exaggerations in history, starting with, remember the infamous phrase weapons of mass destruction during the lead up to the Iraq war? Talk about exaggeration. The US and its allies justified a major war based on the claim that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction ready to go at any extent, except, well, they didn't. A study by David Campbell in the Journal of Political Science showed how exaggeration around weapons of mass destruction created mass fear and led to widespread public support for a controversial war. The exaggeration of the threat played a major role in shaping global opinion. It was basically the world's biggest game of I am telling you, they have got it. Next up, Make America Great Again, a simple phrase but packed with exaggeration. Donald Trump implied that America had fallen into disrepair and only he could restore it through the greatness. It's like a before and after commercial, where the before picture looks extra gloomy for dramatic effect. Dr. Kathleen Hall Jamieson analyzed this in her work on political rhetoric. She found that politicians often use nostalgic exaggeration to make the past seem better and the present worse, which helps rally support by creating a sense of urgency. Basically, Trump said, America is a disaster and I alone can fix it. If exaggeration were an Olympic sport, this would be a gold medal movement. Let's take a look at India. Back in 2004, the BJP's India signing campaign painted a picture of an India that was booming, successful and on the top of the world. Sounds great, right? Well, voters didn't buy it because their day-to-day realities didn't match the hype. A study in Asian survey found that this exaggeration backfired, with rural voters rejecting the overly optimistic view of the country's progress. Voters felt that the signing narrative ignored the poverty and inequality. India was signing, but apparently no one told half the population. Now let's get into the why behind political exaggeration. Why do politicians use it? And why do we keep falling for it? Political exaggeration plays on our most basic emotions, fear and hope. According to psychologist Dr. George Lakoff, politicians use fear exaggeration to make threats seem bigger than they are, pushing us to support extreme actions. If we don't act now, disaster will strike tomorrow. Sounds familiar, right? A study from Cambridge University showed that fear exaggeration is one of the most effective ways to sway voters, especially on issues like immigration, crime, or economic collapse. On the flip side, politicians also use hope exaggeration. It's all about big promises, jobs, prosperity, world peace. Voters love optimism. even when deep down we know it's probably too good to be true. Social media has taken political exaggeration to a whole new level. Research from Harvard University shows that exaggerations spread faster online because algorithms prioritize emotionally charged content. In other words, the bigger the claim, the more clicks and shares it gets. So, next time you see a headline like "This policy will save the world," just remember it's probably designed to go viral. So, what's happened when politicians exaggerate too much? Sure, it's entertaining, but it also has some real consequences. Over time, exaggeration erodes public trust in politicians and institutions. If people hear enough inflated claims that never come true, they start tuning out. A study published in the Journal of Democracy found that exaggerated promises that go unfulfilled lead to widespread political cynicism, especially among younger voters. So, Mr. Politician, if you keep promising the moon and delivering a rock, don't be surprised when people stop listening. Exaggeration also deepens political polarization. When politicians paint the other side as a threat to national survival, it becomes harder to find common ground. Studies from the Brookings Institution show that political exaggeration, especially about the ideological threats, makes compromise nearly impossible, pushing people further into extreme camps. Basically, it's like telling your friend that pineapple on pizza is the worst thing in the world. Suddenly, you are enemies for life. So, how do we navigate a world where political exaggeration is everywhere? Here is your handy guide to surviving political hyperbole. When a politician says something that sounds too good or too bad to be true, fact check it. Sites like PolitiFact and factcheck.org are your best friends. Exaggeration thrives on extremes. If you want the real story, look for politicians or analysts who give you a balanced view. No fire and brimstone, just facts. Always ask who benefits from this exaggeration. If a politician says the world is ending, chances are they are selling you the solution. Yeah, remember, if someone is selling you